Hello there everyone, how you doing today? I hope you're all well. Today I'm reading some creepypastas and horror stories from r/no-sleep. If you enjoy, remember to like the video and leave a hype on it if you got that available to you, so we may feed the almighty Steve. Now without further ado, let's get started, shall we? My friend died in a horrible prank. I wish I never learned what went wrong. The worst deaths, in my opinion, are accidental. I read last week about a mother who rolled onto her newborn baby and suffocated it. Every year, toddlers die from being left in hot cars. And then you hear stories of kids playing games, like one boy who hid an unplugged freezer and suffocated to death during hide and seek. Can you imagine? Can you imagine being the person responsible in any of these situations? To me, this is so much more terrifying than the prospect of the paranormal. I would much rather be haunted by a ghost than by guilt over unintentionally hurting someone. My husband Wade is the opposite. He's unbothered by accidents, but petrified of horror movies about demons or vengeful ghosts. But as I told him, none of these things are real, so why be scared? He counters that accidents are without malice, therefore not as scary as murderous ghosts that might be real. I guess he has a point. About the lack of malice, not about the ghosts that might be real. I know they're not, because if they were, my best friend would definitely be haunting me. I guess in some ways she is. You see, whenever I read about a prank going wrong, I start breathing for a moment. I am choked by guilt. After all these years, I still don't know if it was my fault. I was never charged, and my friends insist I need to stop blaming myself. But how can I? How can I move on not knowing if it's because of me? Rosa got into the suitcase on her own. Lakeisha and I helped her. We were all drunk, giggling. She was supposed to surprise Ballin. She had a huge crush on him. Let me back up. Let me try to explain. We were at a party. Our friend group had been together for years, and we rented out the lodge for me, my husband, Wade, who back then was just my crush, his buddies Bolin and Tucker and JB, and the girls who were my besties, Lakeisha, Rosa, and Kay. There were also some other friends who stopped by who'd we met earlier in the day, while hiking. I can't remember their names anymore. What I do remember is that we all had a lot to drink. And Rosa, well, she was in her flirty phase. Rosa was my best friend, but she wasn't perfect. She was like a butterfly who sips from every flower, a real heartbreaker, beautiful and passionate. I was a little bit jealous of the attention she had, and also kind of in awe of her. Whoever she was with fell hard, like she was the love of their life. But she never committed. She'd been on again, off again with JB, and then seduced Wade, which was kind of bitchy because she knew I had a crush on him. She'd even flirted with bisexuality with Kay. Now her eyes were on Bolin. I forget whose idea it was for her to hide in the suitcase, mine or hers. All the luggage was in the basement because that's where the boys had put it, or where we'd arrived on the lodge. Lakeisha said something like, Bolin's suitcase is big enough to hide a body, and that's when Rosa or me had the idea she'd hide it. And Rosa decided to spice up the prank by wearing lingerie. When Bolin took the suitcase up to his room and opened it, he would find a sexy surprise. We were stupid. Stupid, stupid, stupid. None of us had good judgment, especially since we were tipsy. Once Rosa squeezed inside, whining about her hair getting caught in the zipper. Lakeisha and I went to go badger the boys to bring everyone's bags to their room. I remember Bolin delivered mine. I was staying outside in a tent with Kay. The lodge didn't have enough bedrooms for everybody, and we wanted to sleep under the stars. Kay had no idea about the prank and was confused when I kept urging Bolin to go inside and check his bag. After he left, I told her about Rosa, and because Kay was actually sober, she told me to make sure Rosa wasn't stuck in there. So I decided to make sure the suitcase wasn't still at the bottom of the stairs. At least I think I did, but I was drunk. While all of us were sitting outside watching fireworks later, I noticed Bolin missing and asked Wade where he went. Bolin had gone up to his room early. Since he hadn't come back, Lakeisha and I assumed Rosa was in there with him, and that her lingerie stunt had worked. In fact, Lakeisha and I were whispering about it all evening, quietly, so not to make any of the boys jealous. In the morning, when Bolin came down, Lakeisha and I asked him about last night, all smirks. He looked clueless. Then Lakeisha asked where Rose was, and he was still clueless. But what about his suitcase? Hadn't he opened it? He said someone had shoved all his clothes into a closet in a pile. He wasn't sure why. He assumed he was being pranked or something, and he hadn't seen his suitcase. "So you never opened it?" asked Lakeisha. Dread bloomed in my belly. Oh God. Oh God. Oh God. Lakeisha was telling him how he'd taken off the clothes off Rosa and had hidden inside hoping to surprise him in her lingerie, and Bolin blushed and said he was gay. He was gay, but his coming out to us hardly even registered because where was Rosa? None of us knew. We quickly went to wake everyone else up, hoping someone had seen her last night. Oh God, oh God, oh God! Didn't I check? I swear I checked. Prayers ran through my head, but I was drunk. I wasn't sure if I really had. I went downstairs to the basement, and there was the suitcase still tucked away at the bottom of the stairs. It was exactly where we'd left it when we zipped Rosa inside the night before. Nobody wanted to open the suitcase. The boys argued about who left it there. JB said he'd lifted it but noticed how heavy it was and asked someone else to take it. Each of them had thought another of the guys was going to grab it. Bolin didn't think to check because he found his clothes piled in the closet. I'm ashamed to say I went outside when Lakeisha reached for the zipper. Wade came out and joined me. He told me dead bodies, gore, things like that scared him. While the others checked the contents of the suitcase, Wade and I sat outside. We heard the gasps and whispers of, "Oh, God." His fingers gripped mine tightly. I then put my head in my hands and sobbed. She had suffocated, of course, but it had taken a long time. The police wondered why none of us had heard her gasping for help, but Kay sheepishly told them about the fireworks. A prank gone wrong, authorities ruled. My friends said then, and still say now, that ultimately Rosa was the one most responsible for her own misfortune. That she'd made her own decisions, that all of us were a little guilty, but none of us was wholly responsible for a tragic accident. But it was my hand that closed the zipper. I've lain in bed, thinking about her gasping for air. Why didn't she scream? Why didn't we hear any muffled shouts? I imagine her squeezed in the darkness while her pleas for help go unanswered, and I can't breathe. But the real reason I'm writing this is because this morning I saw a story in the news about a woman in her underwear found strangled on the beach. My husband watched away from the reporting, and when I asked why, he looked surprised and said he thought it might trigger me. Why? I asked. It wasn't a prank. I thought it might remind you of Rosa, the lingerie. I suppose that aspect was similar. To be honest, the part of the tragedy had never really stuck with me as much. But now that I think about it, we all stopped talking about her after her death. How her death was only a blip in the news. No details were released. In our friend group, Rosa's death became a taboo subject. Almost like she'd never been with us at all. We all silently agreed to forget her. But the more I think on that report on the news, the more I'm getting that feeling from that day. The top of the stairs feeling. Like I'm looking down and seeing something I don't want to see. The oh God, oh God, oh God sense of impending dread. And I'm about to be sick. because Wade dated her too, and I loved her. And more certain, I looked down the stairs before the fireworks, and there was no suitcase there. And now I'm wondering, if Wade never saw what was in the suitcase, never picked it up or opened it or moved it, how did he know she was in her lingerie when she died? That is the end of story number 1. Taking a break between the stories to remind you, if you have any stories you want me to read, send it to jrhoffman2806@outlook.com, and I'd be happy to read them here for you. Now, let's keep going, shall we? The warehouse I work at won't tell us what's in the containers. Now I know why. I needed a job, as I could barely afford rent. I just walked out of a bar mid-job shift a few days before. My landlord mentioned he knew a place that was hiring. He was a strange guy, but to say the least, but he seemed sincere. "So, you can get me something that starts straight away?" I asked. "Yeah, they'll take you on pretty quick. They're always getting new people. You know how to drive a forklift, though. Right, kid?" I said. I didn't, but I was desperate, I thought. How hard can it be? "Yeah, I can drive one." "Is this a warehouse job, then? Is it nearby?" I asked. "Yeah, it's not too far from here. I'll give them all a call and let them know if they got some fresh meat." He waddled off and went back to the apartment. "Well, that was easy," I said out loud. I was pretty happy. I just got a job. I decided to celebrate and asked my friends if they wanted to go out to the bars tonight. The next day, my landlord knocked on my door at 5 a.m. I had only gotten home a couple hours prior. I opened the door in my underwear. "Yeah, what's up?" I muttered, my mouth still dehydrated, dry as a desert sand. "You start today, kid. Get dressed and head down there. Here's the address. I wrote it down on a piece of paper." He commanded in a deadly serious tone. Before I had a chance to speak, he handed me the note and stormed off. He had scribbled the address on a torn piece of dirty magazine. Didn't surprise me at all. I got dressed and grabbed the bus to the nearest stop to the address he gave me. It was in a shady part of town. A really shady part of town. I'd actually avoided going this way my entire time living here. For the first time for everything, I suppose. I came to the address, and it was a warehouse. It looked old and abandoned. I banged on the door, and to my surprise, it opened swiftly. A tall, dark, handsome man in a designer suit stood before me. Charlie, isn't it? Your friend has told us you can fill in on a forklift position. You're right on time, too. Come on in, son," the man said. "Yeah, that's me." I followed him inside and saw the warehouse was awfully clean. Too clean. I could practically see my reflection in the floor. I could see multiple cleaners scrubbing various areas of the small warehouse. They were cleaning full hazmat-looking suits. It looked something out of Chernobyl. He guided me to the forklift and stared at me. "Here you go," he said in a joyful manner. Do I not need to, sign any paperwork or anything? Don't I need a high-vis or something, too?" I said with a shaky voice. I was terrible at faking anything. "Nope, we trust you. You're all good to go," he said with a big grin. This forklift, it's kind of different to what I'm used to. Is there a manual or something?" I said, with a tremor in my voice. There was no way I could pull him off. "Different? This is a standard model. I wonder what you're used to, then." I opened my mouth, but no words came out. I was so embarrassed and actually kind of scared, too. Before I could spew any more BS, he grabbed a worker walking by. "Dean, show Charlie how we use the forklifts. He's not used to this model." The man, my new boss now, walked off in a hurry. Dean, my co-worker, spent the next 30 minutes showing me how to use the forklift. He could tell I'd never touched one in my life, but didn't seem to care. Dean was an odd-looking guy. Straightforward and nice enough, but definitely a dark horse. His face was covered in scars. They looked like cat scratches. He was missing an ear and an eye, but didn't bother wearing an eye patch. His head was shaven, and he had a long red beard that hadn't seen a wash or a trim in years. I was surprised how easily I took to the job.
They had a few position drivers who unloaded the trucks, drivers who put away the containers, drivers who took containers from the trucks that were leaving, and drivers who unloaded the trucks that were leaving. To start me off, they put me on taking the containers from the unloaded trucks and putting the containers away. The containers were about 6 feet tall and 6 feet wide, like a really small elevator. They were a thick iron, not like regular wooden crates. They had an opening door on them which looked really heavily padlocked. As I was moving the containers in the forklift, well, just about doing so without crashing, I could hear rumbling and thudding against the containers. Whatever was in there was moving. I saw the man from earlier walking around and waved at him to get his attention. He walked over and said, "How's it going, son?" "It's good, thank. What the heck is in these containers? I'm worried I'm gonna drop them if whatever's in there keeps rocking about. Hope I'm not breaking anything." Part of your paperless verbal contract is to respect our client's confidentiality. We don't open the containers. Each and every container has a unique barcode. We simply receive shipments, store the containers for a short amount of time, and then ship them back out, he said in a stern yet friendly tone. "Ah, okay. Alright then. About my contract, how much does this job pay? And what are my hours?" I asked nervously. "Your hours are from 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. You'll be paid $333 a day at the end of each shift in cash," he said that with the same grin. "Okay, thanks, I'll get to work now," I said to him. 333 euros a day? That is so much money. I'm going to be rich doing this job. What a weird amount, though. And cash? Who pays in cash? 6 a.m. to 9 p.m. is going to be brutal, though, I thought to myself. I had stopped paying attention to the container on my forklift, and as I tried to move it up higher to fit on the stack, my fingers slipped and I pressed the wrong button by mistake. The prongs of the forklift shuddered, and the container came crashing down. As part of the container burst open, I heard a quick, excruciating scream, and then nothing. The scream came from inside the container. The entire team stopped what they were doing and rushed over. The cleaners immediately began spraying and cleaning up the container like flies swarming a corpse. As I looked around, panicking like crazy, I looked back to the container. There was blood pooling by the now busted container door. A security guard grabbed me by my throat and pulled me out of the forklift. He shoved me to the ground and put a knee to my head, holding me down in place. The tall man in the designer suit rushed over to me and told the security guard everything was all right for now. "It's okay, son. Accidents happen. It's only your first day here. How about we take a lunch break while the team sorts out this little accident?" "What was in there?" I screamed. The rest of the warehouse looked at me like I just pulled out a grenade. "Now, what did I say about that, Charlie?" he said to me in a calm but concerned tone. "I thought it was just weapons or something in there. That was blood. Why is there blood in there? Are there animals in there?" He didn't answer my questions. The security guard picked me up to my feet and escorted me to a break room. The room was small. It had a few chairs around the table in the middle of the room. There were some children's toys in the corner of the room. They looked out of place. I guess the boss brings his kid to work sometimes. We had a long talk. Well, I didn't really say anything. He told me how lucky I am to have this opportunity, and that they're doing a good thing here. He preached about company values and client satisfaction. He said to me that he actually appreciated how interested I am in the work, and that there may be another position within the organization I can fulfill. He said that actually since my little incident, a slot's just been opened for a brand new exciting opportunity. I'm in the break room now. He's gone, but he says he'll be back soon and show me what's inside the containers, like, to put my mind at ease. I guess this new job isn't so bad after all. My landlord, Mr. Graves, is a great guy for getting me this job. I will let you know how I get on. That is the end of today's video. I hope you all enjoyed. Remember to like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, and hit that hype button if you enjoyed. I will see you all next time. Bye bye.